Hey guys, Mapletail here. Today is my reaction to and review of the most recent Warriors book in the Changing Skies arc, Hidden Moon. So spoiler warning for the entire book. And we're trying a few things. I wasn't going to draw anything directly from this book, but I got super inspired to draw one of my favorite new duos, Jayfeather and Moonpaw. So we'll be starting with that. I also have a drawing of an OC by KittyandCat for a Warriors-themed art fight gift exchange, and my piece for a Pokemon-themed zine I joined, Trainersona Winter Edition. Many December vibes today. Let's get into it. As usual, I've already talked about the first few chapters when the preview dropped, so we're jumping right into chapter 4. It's a Tawny Pelt POV. She's still recovering in SkyClan after the events of Book 1. She speaks with Leafstar. The two seem to have much sympathy for each other's situations. I really feel for them both. Tawny Pelt doesn't yet share her vision, but she does hint at it, hoping for some wisdom, but receiving very little in return. Leafstar is in her last days as leader and can't offer her much. It makes Tawny Pelt wonder if she herself should have stepped up as leader of ShadowClan all those moons ago. If she would have been a better leader than Tigerstar. Yes. No question she would have been. Oh my god, and I almost forgot about the weird Crowfeather crush subplot as he comes to visit Tawny Pelt. I am embarrassed on her behalf for her getting so flustered over this guy. Starlingpaw is up next. I'm still really excited about him as a protagonist. All of SkyClan stays up through the night, waiting for Leafstar and Hawkwing to return from the Moonpool as Leaf Dapple and Hawkstar, if all goes to plan. But it does not go to plan. The Moonpool was completely surrounded by two-leg walls, blocking their way. Okay. I'm not too surprised considering all the activity around there that most cats have been annoyingly ignoring, but I am curious as to where this is going. That said, it also feels a little similar to the Broken Code where the clan's connection to StarClan was also blocked, but under very different circumstances, and will likely have a very different fix, aka the possible move to a new territory that's been teased. So more like the new prophecy then. Later that night, Starlingpaw sneaks out, still sure that he's the only one who can save the clans. He sees the monsters around the Moonpool and no way to make it through. After an incident with a fox, he makes it home, being sent to the Medicine Cat Den. At least he might get a chance to talk to Tawny Pelt. No such luck. He does start growing suspicious of Fidget Flake though. Starlingpaw thinks he's acting cagey, maybe hiding something, wanting Leafstar out of a leadership position, and making mistakes caring for Tawny Pelt. I'm pretty sure Starlingpaw's overthinking it, but it's kind of interesting to see. I know fans have wanted an evil medicine cat for a long time, and well, we know Fidget Flake isn't the two-faced cat. It's a fun theory from Starlingpaw. Let's see what the actual two-faced cat is up to. Well, you know, assuming that it's Moonpaw at least. ThunderClan heads to an emergency gathering, presumably about the blockade around the Moonpool. They better start taking it seriously. I'm gonna lose my mind if they still don't think it's a problem. Thankfully, most cats are taking it seriously. It's cool to see mentions of the journey to the lake, little Leafpaw first finding the Moonpool, and the Wildcats and their tree connecting them to their ancestors. Moonpaw wonders for a moment if she could be the one to find a new way to connect to StarClan if needed. Maybe she really was special, her moon name having another meaning. She brushes it off pretty quickly. Probably for the best. I think she's fated for a much darker path, unfortunately. I also forgot she hasn't been sleeping out of fear of sleepwalking. Not great. After a bit of a fall, she ends up in the Medicine Cat's den. I was shocked that she actually confided in Jayfeather about it, and he offers to have her sleep there, saying that he and Alderheart can take turns watching over her. What the hell? That's so sweet. In the morning, Jayfeather tells Moonpool that he sensed the presence of another cat in the night, but he's interrupted by a mildly injured Brambleclaw before he can ask her about it. I really hope she tells him about her sister. If anyone can help, it would probably be him. Back with Tawny Pelt, she's ready to go home. Starlingpaw says goodbye to her, unable to say much more in front of the Medicine Cats. It makes Tawny Pelt think back to her first apprentice, Starling Wing, who died young in battle. Heartbreaking. And yet more sadness as Dovewing and Shadowsight come to collect Tawny Pelt. Dovewing still thinks that her son Birchfeather is making a terrible mistake changing clans, which is so hypocritical, I can't even process it. I'm just glad he has Tawny Pelt's support at least. I low-key wish that she would move to SkyClan too. I have a feeling things will only continue to get worse for her in ShadowClan. Just as she leaves, Starlingpaw whispers to her that he thinks Fidget Flake is the cat she meant, and he will do all he can to help her. Tawnypelt just thinks he's a strange little guy, and I can't help but agree, in a good way. Once Tawnypelt is home, every cat makes a point of visiting her and welcoming her back. It was really nice to see. I just can't imagine it lasts, especially as Tigerstar comes to see her next. She tries to tell him about her vision, and predictably he completely brushes her off. She should have just told SkyClan when she had the chance. I did not think that the Brambleclaw stepping on a bit of thorn thing was going to come up as an actual plot point, but Flipclaw is sent to ShadowClan to come and fetch Tawnypelt at her brother's request. He's not actually gonna die this book, is he? I do like that Tawnypelt is really getting around though. We are less than halfway through, and she's already had chapters in 3 of the clans. Back with Starlingpaw. Since the path to the Moonpool is blocked, SkyClan discusses what to do about its leadership. Starlingpaw was very sweet in defending Leafstar against those who still wanted to step down, and his suspicions of Fidget Flake only grow as the other cat is so resolute in Hawkwing taking over. It's such an interesting plot point to me. It would be cool if there was actually something to it. I'd love just one chapter of Fidget Flake's perspective on all these little moments that Starlingpaw finds so off. He goes to speak with Leafstar after the meeting, making sure that she knows he supports her, and asks if she thinks cats within the clan could be plotting against her. She doesn't, but I'm glad he said something anyways. It was neat to see him thinking about how it was an apprentice that found the Moonpool, and that maybe he could be of help too, despite his young age. It was like seeing the contrast of Tawnypelt frustrated with the younger cats of her clan, and Starlingpaw frustrated with the older cats in his. I feel for them both. And then we have our third cat, really just doing her own thing. I am loving Moonpaw's interactions with Jayfeather, and she has a nice moment with Brambleclaw too. He's clearly declining fast, and one night after learning about Moonpaw's sleepwalking, he tells her about his own nightmares. Of the dark forest, of Ashfur taking over his body. I'm glad she gets to hear about it, and how it's clearly different from what is happening to her. It feels important for her to know that. Both cats are afraid to fall asleep, but they aren't alone anymore. Moonpaw dreams of her sister that night, the orange cat whispering something to a sleeping Brambleclaw. Very curious to see what that is about. In the morning, we learn that she wanted Brambleclaw to stay in between worlds with her. Very ominous. Moonpaw really needs to stop ignoring her sister. It's cruel, and it's going to end so badly. We finally return to Tawnypelt as she too heads to ThunderClan. Brambleclaw is still asleep, so Jayfeather speaks to her. She understands that this infection has the potential to kill him, even though Jayfeather doesn't say it outright. She gets her first look at Moonpaw too, noting her peculiar facial markings. Unique, but kinda pretty. I wonder how long it will take her to suspect her of being the two-faced cat. I liked seeing her speak with Cloudtail and Brightheart too. Tawnypelt remembering looking up to them, when they were apprentices and she was a kit. Also, the lore drop that Squirrelstar is the only leader left who came from the Old Forest was wild to think about. We've come a long way. I was thrilled that Tawnypelt took the chance to ask Squirrelstar what she really thought about everything going on, and the leader admitted she was really worried about it. I'm glad to hear she plans to do something about it too, wanting to start sending out patrols to look for other ways to speak with StarClan. Things really are all coming together as Tawnypelt sits with Brambleclaw. He tells her of his dream, and she can tell right away it might be related to her vision. She plans to share what she learned with Tigerstar, but I can already hear the way he will brush her off once more, claiming it's nothing more than a fever dream. It's nice of her to not want to throw Moonpaw's name out though, wanting to protect the apprentice who hasn't done anything wrong, not wanting her clan to turn against her like they'd done to a young Tawnypelt. Especially when she's not even sure Moonpaw is the two-faced cat yet. Talking to Tigerstar and the medicine cats goes exactly as expected. No one ever listens to anyone in these books, I swear. I understand some hesitance after Shadowsight, but this isn't a mysterious voice speaking to an apprentice. This is Bluestar sending a message to a senior warrior who has experience in talking to StarClan. It's simply not the same. It's time for another gathering. One we'll see from Starlingpaw's POV. He tells his littermate Robinpaw that they'll be going to the gathering, and she's clearly angry at him for defending Leafstar. But that anger quickly dissipates as she realizes he doesn't blame Leafstar for their father's death. because he blames himself. At the gathering, Starlingpaw sees the orange cat. Is there actually something special about him, or is the cat's presence just getting stronger? I'm hoping for the latter. I kinda like that Starlingpaw isn't actually a prophecy cat. Just someone who got thrown into all this. Oh, right. Starlingpaw's related to Tree and Rootspring, the cats literally known for seeing ghosts. Okay, fair enough then. He makes the connection of the two-faced cat to Moonpaw, just as Tawnypelt did, and tries to speak with Tree about maybe having seen a ghost. But the gathering is gathering. We hear bits of it. Ideas of going to see the tribe for Feathertail's help in reaching StarClan, but no real plan forms yet. We get to see the rest of the gathering with Moonpaw. Oh, how fun! Another gathering. I wonder what's going terribly wrong today. Stop. The orange cat is actually so funny sometimes. Echoing my thoughts exactly right now. Moonpaw has been afraid to sleep in the medicine cat's den since her sister was able to talk to Brambleclaw, so she hasn't been sleeping much again. Her sister harasses her at the gathering, seeming more real than ever. But also, Tawnypelt snaps, sharing her vision with the gathered cats, against Tigerstar's orders. The girls have her back though, as Squirrel Star, Ice Star, and Leaf Star all want to hear her out. She takes care not to look at Moonpaw as she speaks of the two-faced cat, but many cats do turn to look at her. There's some debate about if the vision is real, but she at least has some support. And it was interesting to see a young cat like Moonpaw not know that Tawnypelt was once of ThunderClan. And wow, okay, the girlies are really here for Tawnypelt, as she has all the she-cat leaders believe her vision to be true. Hairstar, and especially Tigerstar, should take notes. In the end, they decide to send a patrol to the tribe of Rushing Water to try to reach Feathertail, and otherwise we'll be waiting a couple moons to see if the two legs leave, and if not, the search for a new territory must begin. Very exciting. Back with Tawnypelt, things are going as expected, as usual. Her and Tigerstar argue, and he is pretty awful to her. It doesn't surprise me that she wants to go back to ThunderClan for a couple days, to get some space, to see her sick brother, and to work with a leader who actually respects her. Not to mention, to keep a little bit of an eye on Moonpaw. As she keeps most of her reasons to herself, Tigerstar agrees to let her go, but tells her that he can't promise she'll be welcomed back if she stays away any longer. Seriously? That's literally your mother. He was furious when Birchfeather left, and Dovewing is still trying to get him to change his mind. But when Tawnypelt wants some time away for a few days, she gets threatened with exile? Ridiculous. But off to ThunderClan she goes. Squirrel Star welcomes her, and we learn that Ivypool will represent ThunderClan on the trip to the tribe. I wonder if we'll get a POV character going or not. It's a little hard to imagine any of them doing that right now. Back in SkyClan, it looks like the journeying cats have been decided. Crowfeather, Hootwhisker, Shadowsight, Ivypool, Duskfur, Fidgetflake, and Tree. A bit of a mix of deputies, senior warriors, and medicine cats. And Tree. Makes sense, but was still pretty interesting to see. I'm not surprised to see Crowfeather among them. Tree echoing my thoughts as he mentions Crowfeather's history with Feathertail. At the last moment, Hawkwing thinks Tree should stay behind, in case a mediator is needed, and sends Nectarsong instead. And her apprentice Starlingpaw. Not overly looking forward to yet another bit of travel to the tribe, but maybe something worthwhile will happen. I certainly hope so. They make it to the tribe's cave without much fuss, Starlingpaw taking the time to interrogate Fidgetflake as subtly as he can, which is not very subtly. But then we're off to see what Moonpaw is up to. Her lack of sleep is starting to cause real problems as she injures Goldenpaw's eye in a training session. It sounds like he'll be fine, but I'm worried for Moonpaw. She confides a bit more in Jayfeather, telling him that she feels divided, without giving the details of what's really going on. I find it really sweet how much she trusts him. Their interactions have been one of my favorite parts of this book, and I hope that if ThunderClan turns against her, that Jayfeather will have her back. He has her get some rest, and promises she'll be okay. Oh. Tawnypelt is awoken by Goldenpaw and Shinepaw, and learns that Moonpaw has been sleeping in the medicine cat's den. Worried for her brother, she goes to check in. He's definitely getting worse. In better news, she sees Jayfeather watching over Moonpaw, his tail draped over her. Oh my god, I can't. That's her dad for real. Once Tawnypelt is alone with Brambleclaw, he awakes and tells her about the orange cat who wants to play with him. He also mentions seeing Snowtuft. Do the twice-dead cats still exist in some form? Or was it just a dream? It was such an odd mention that I feel like it must mean something. Tawnypelt shares a meal with the elders, and they aren't sure if they have another move in them if the clans have to leave for new territory. It's sad to think of losing so many classic cats in one fell swoop. Tawnypelt remembering how cats like Frostfur stayed behind last time. Still breaks my heart. As excited as I am about another move, it will always be bittersweet. In the mountains, the tribe greets Starlingpaw and the others. It was wild to see mention of Shadowsight having been there before, the other clans not knowing about that particular venture. Honestly, I'd forgotten about it too. It was good to see Stormfur and Brook again too. And Feather. And to see them learn what's happened with ThunderClan since they'd last heard from them. Especially with Greystripe passing away during that time. Crowfeather goes off to talk with Stoneteller, while the rest of our cats hunt. It was funny to see Starlingpaw get caught attempting to spy. Nectarsong teasing him by saying the white tip of his tail was the sign of a trickster. I'm pretty sure she just made that up on the spot, but I thought it was great. While hunting, Starlingpaw confides in Feather about his fears about having to move, and his worries about Tawnypelt's vision, and how he can help her. Feather warns him about seeking out a traitor that may not exist, and Starlingpaw starts to doubt for the first time that Tawnypelt had really been speaking to him that day. Poor little guy. We learn that Crowfeather was able to reach Feathertail, and she warned him of great change on the horizon, good or bad, depending on the clan's choice. Late that night, Starlingpaw sees Crowfeather sitting alone while the others sleep. He wonders if there's something he didn't tell everyone, but I'm pretty sure he's just grieving Feathertail. In ThunderClan, Moonpaw is doing much better. So much so that Jayfeather says she should try to sleep in the apprentice's den again. Fernstripe also goes into labor, and Moonpaw accidentally slips into Brambleclaw's dream. A lot going on. A young Brambleclaw scares the orange cat off after she spoke with Moonpaw, saying she should become like her. In the waking world, Brambleclaw realizes who the orange cat is. Morning Kit. Such a fitting name to go with Moonpaw's. He cautions Moonpaw away from her sister, clearly recalling his own past struggles with his brother Hawkfrost. But now that Brambleclaw knows the truth, Moonpaw finally has someone to tell everything. He suggests that she tries to show Morning Kit how loved she was during her brief life. Maybe that could help her move on to StarClan. I simply cannot imagine it will work in Book 2 of this arc, but hey, why not? What's the worst that could happen? Tawnypelt finds herself enjoying her time in ThunderClan, staying past when Tigerstar told her she could. But Brambleclaw is still so sick. A reasonable leader would be a little more understanding. But alas, a reasonable leader, Tigerstar is very much not. And we learn the names of Fernstripe's litter: Shy Kit, Puff Kit, and Leap Kit. So cute, oh my god. In sadder news, Tawnypelt and Squirrelstar talk about Brambleclaw, and the possibility of the elders staying behind if the clans actually have to leave. Squirrelstar is determined not to leave anyone behind, especially not her mate. But it was nice to see more of these two. They have a lot in common these days, and have known each other for so long, both concerned for the same cat's well-being. It was hilarious when the conversation turned to love, though. Squirrelstar seeing right through Tawnypelt, that there was a new Tom on her mind. Her guesses were so funny, with Brackenfur and a number of handsome SkyClan cats. I would much prefer those two options to the truth. It's time for Starlingpaw and Co. to leave the mountains. There's talk of Stormfur coming to visit one day to meet his half-siblings. That would be nice to see. Feather also reminds Starlingpaw to let go of his suspicions, which was immediately followed by him becoming more suspicious of Crowfeather. Comedy gold. I can't wait to watch this little cat continue to bark up all the wrong trees. In all that thinking, he has a bad fall, but thankfully, they brought a whole squad of medicine cats along. Fidget Flake being there definitely helped Starlingpaw move on from his paranoia around the cat, and he vowed to himself to focus on becoming a good warrior instead of chasing a possible prophecy. Moonpaw gathers up the courage to ask her parents about Morning Kit. Still afraid to admit too much, not wanting to have to tell them just how afraid she is of her sister. I wish she'd just come out and say it, but honestly understandable. It's a tough spot. They bring her to Morning Kit's grave. It was tragic to hear her story, how small and weak she'd been born, how the medicine cats knew she wouldn't live long, but there was nothing to be done. How Bayshine and Thrift Ear sat with her as her breathing got slower and slower, till it finally stopped. It gave Moonpaw a much-needed new perspective, seeing her sister as a tiny but fierce kit who had fought to live until her dying breath. Dying far too soon, but leaving well-loved. I hope it makes a difference. I have my doubts, but it's a nice thought. Later on, Tawnypelt checks on Brambleclaw. He's only getting worse, and the fact that he's probably gonna die, and Tigerstar still might exile her for staying longer, is already making me angry. And surprise, surprise, it seems Bluestar has visited Brambleclaw too, sharing similar words of warning, including the repeated phrase of the eldest trees in the forest see what fresh seedlings cannot. I thought it was a bit of a general line, but Tawnypelt starts to think that maybe the elders actually know something specific that could be of help. The two decide that Tawnypelt ought to speak with the elders of all the clans, see if there's something she's missing. Brambleclaw's gaze becomes unfocused, and he yells at an unseen cat. Definitely Morning Kit, but Tawnypelt worried that it could be about Moonpaw. I'm getting nervous about how suspicious she's becoming of her. She was doing so well at first, not assuming poorly of the apprentice, that she barely knows. But her thoughts are becoming darker by the chapter. Things are going even worse for Starlingpaw. It started lovely. His appreciation of Fidget Flake, his resolve to become a great warrior, to spend more time with his kin, to help SkyClan wherever he can. It was actually all too nice. I could feel my dread mounting. Something bad was about to happen. Unfortunately, I was right. An eagle appeared out of nowhere, heading straight for Hootwhisker. Crowfeather leapt up to help, attacking the bird in the air. He wasn't heavy enough to bring it down, the eagle flying higher and higher. Crowfeather was sent falling from an impossible height, hitting the ground with a thud. Then, silence. Oh my god, did they actually just kill off Crowfeather? Like that? That's where we're leaving this POV. Okay. Which brings us to our final chapter, I guess. Moonpaw. She finds some privacy out in the woods and speaks with Morning Kit to share all the things she's learned of her short life. Morning Kit does not take it well, thinking that she'll be alone in StarClan, that Moonpaw's just trying to get rid of her. Yeah, considering how Moonpaw's been treating her, I get it. She ends up storming off, clawing Moonpaw's back as she went. Not at all reassuring to learn she can harm cats in the living world now. I'm sure that will end just great. We leave off with Moonpaw hurrying back home, needing to confide in Brambleclaw, wanting his protection. And that's that. Thanks for watching. I really liked this one. I felt like it was really starting to pick up and get interesting near the end, which makes me really excited to read book 3. Something about this book just hit different overall as well. Like, there were a lot of great character callbacks and interactions, and far less frustrating moments that I've come to expect from this series. Just a really solid read. Even if we didn't really get much further in the plot, I don't really mind. Also, I need to know if we're about to lose both Crowfeather and Brambleclaw. I have an extra bad feeling about the latter. There's a chance he'll already be gone by the time Moonpaw makes it back to camp. And who knows if Crowfeather will be able to survive such a horrible fall. Not to mention the very real possibility that what Starlingpaw thought Crowfeather was hiding was a warning from Feathertail about his impending doom. And also, I really feel for Morning Kit. Even if I feel like they're setting her up to become more of an antagonist, this book really endeared me to her. She's just a kid, ignored and threatened by the only cats who can see her. Oh, and I forgot Starlingpaw saw her once too. They have to do something with that next book. I very much need them all to properly meet. I want to see more of Moonpaw and Jayfeather working together, and less of Tawnypelt and Tigerstar. Her visiting ThunderClan was a great move for me specifically. But yeah, that was a lot to process. I look forward to seeing what everyone else thought about this one. So if you've given it a read, let me know what you thought. And I'll see you next Thursday.